Hi, cutie pies. It is Lanickia, and I am coming to you with another episode of A Million Little Things. And this was actually a really great episode. Um, so we're just gonna dive right into it. So Maggie and Gary are together in bed and everything. They're a couple, and they're just enjoying being together. And then Gary rolls over and eats some chocolate, right? And Maggie was like, oh my gosh, I wish you wouldn't do that. Like, Cam keeps sending her chocolates and flowers because he's trying to win her back. Now, what we didn't know, which, because last week, remember, she said, I shouldn't have kissed you until I broke up with Cam and I broke up with him. What she didn't say was that she had not told him the reason that she broke up with him is to be back with Gary. So she feels weird with Gary eating the candy, which, Gary, you really shouldn't, even though it might be tempting. Go buy your own chocolate. Don't get that chocolate that man gave that girl. But so then we see Sophie. Sophie comes over and she's like, "Oh, I heard about you and Cam." And Maggie is like, "How did you hear about us?" And she said, "Well, it's all over. Like, Cam had a breakdown at the end of the game and everything. Y'all, I'm in my night robe and stuff because this show comes on at 9 o'clock and it's already 10 o'clock. I'm going after this. I'm going straight to bed." But so Sophie's like, I'm here for you. I got the Rocky Road ice cream. They was gonna have like a little girls thing. And then Gary comes out and Sophie's like, oh, I see you got all the company you need. So she leaves, right? So then we see, oh shoot. So she leaves, right? Because now she's leaving in a huff and a puff. So then we see Rome. So Rome is there. So he comes into the room and it's already Regina's dad, Mario Van Peebles. So we see Regina's dad, Ty, and Regina, and they're just talking and everything. And Regina's dad makes a comment. He makes a comment, and Rome makes a slick reply back, and it was just like they're all three of them are like, it's awkward. And so then we find out that Ty wants to go to Yale. Gosh. So we find out that Ty wants to go to Yale and Rome really wants him to go to an HBCU. And Ty is just like, I want to go. Like, my mother didn't get deported. She didn't work this hard for me to go to, she wanted me to go to Ivy League college. I feel obligated to go to the best of the best. And Rome has a problem with it, but Ty is just like, listen, this is not up for discussion. I applied to Yale. I didn't apply to them other colleges you told me to, so it's not even up for discussion at this point. So then we see, Danny and okay, so Danny calls Gary the FaceTiming or whatever, and he says Milo has got his tooth pulled. He's been very sick. We haven't even been able to FaceTime because his face is so swollen and he's in pain. Can you please do me a favor and send him a care package, like deliver him a care package, write the card and everything for me, let him know, I'm thinking about him and I'm caring about it. I'm sending him over this care package or whatever. Let me tell you something. They don't work. But anyways, so then we see Gary agrees to do that for Danny. So then we see T and Catherine talk and he wants to be a doctor. And she's like, oh, that's good. I'm happy you want to be a doctor. Now, if you look at it, Theo is when she says she's not going to work, she's going to work from home. He was excited for her to go to work because she would have her assistant there to watch her, And when she says she's not, he's like apprehensive about, her being at home, but he doesn't say anything. But we see that Greta is actually coming over because she's free that day, I guess, because, it's her own practice. So she's actually going to spend the afternoon with Greta. Um, so then we see Eddie and Anna talk. And so they're talking or whatever, and he was trying to sell his guitar, and she says, no, don't sell this. You still have some music left in you. I was like, nah, but then she was like, no, don't sell that at all. So then they say, that she I'm sorry, I got distracted by the news because the TV's still on. So then what they say is what we hear is okay. So the girl that's in Sophie's band, she comes up and she says, "Don't I know you?" And Anna was like, do you know his old group?" And she was like, "No, you're Sophie's teacher." And she was like, and he was like, "Yeah, I saw you guys play the other day." And so then she tells him, "We're going on like they're got a 20-day college tour or whatever." And she said, and he was like, "How's Sophie gonna go to college and do this too?" So he was like, "I got to go. I got to go over here and talk to her about this." Um, so then, so then we see Maggie walk through and she's leaving Sophie another message, but Sophie's not returning her calls or answering her back. Um, so then we see that Gary. Okay, so Gary goes over to give the package to Milo, right? But as he goes over, he's on the phone with Danny. He was like, "Yeah, I'm about to get a package to him now. I'm gonna call you back as soon as I get done. I'm gonna tell you what his face looks like and everything." It's real cute. But Gary looks and he sees that Milo is actually kissing another guy. So he's cheating. She's cheating on Danny. So Gary was like, "Oh my gosh," Um, so then we see Ty and Rome talk, right? So he's prepping Ty for his interview with the college or whatever with Yale. And Ty is just like, he wants Ty to ask questions about diversity and, what do you guys do in that regards? And Ty is just like, he wants to ask questions that show he's interested, but he doesn't want to just go into diversity. That's it. And so Regina's dad comes in, right? And he was like, he agreed with Ty that, yeah, you're asking really great questions or whatever. Uh, he says, yeah, it's so much happening in the city now. It's just like so crazy. I don't even want to watch the news now because it's just, but so he tells Ty, I like your question, Regina's dad. And Rome gets all upset about this, and you could tell Rome gets in a tiff. And then Ty gets frustrated with Rome because he was like, "Man, you're acting like you don't think I could go into Yale." And he was like, "No, that's not what I'm saying." He's like, "Well, it sounds like you are. I got a few minutes before this interview, and I got to prepare." He doesn't want to spend it with Rome because Rome is not giving him the positivity that he wants or wants to hear at that time. So he's like, "I don't want to spend, like, I'm done with you on this interview." Um, okay, so then we see that Catherine and Greta are at home with lunch and they're just having a good time or whatever on lunch. And then Theo comes in and he's like, "Who are you?" Because Catherine went upstairs and he's like, "Who are you?" And Greta's like, "I'm Greta. I was your mom's friend." He was like, "You were the one on the phone." And she was like, "Yeah, that was me." So while she's doing that, Catherine comes back downstairs and she's just like, "Hey, Theo, this is my friend Greta," and everything. And so they're talking, and Theo came home because he said he's sick. He didn't feel well, and she was like, "Oh no, I hate that you don't feel well." So Catherine went upstairs because she's gonna get some because Greta said Catherine went upstairs because she's gonna get the to check Theo's temperature and everything. So that left Theo and Greta downstairs together, and so he hears a bump and he realizes it makes him jump. And Greta was like, "Are you okay?" And he was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "It was really scary what happened to your mom." And he was like, "But you were so brave." And he says, "No, I didn't. If I hadn't been talking to you, I didn't know what I was going to do." And she said, "What? You knew to check her head. You knew to look at her head and everything. You were really brave." So that lets Greta know that he's actually really scared about, what would happen to Catherine if no one is there. So Regina and her dad are like talking and everything, right? And he tells her that, he's really proud of her and everything. And she tells him she's proud, thank you, and she loves having him around. And he tells her, she said all that, she's having to do so much cooking, she and Val. And they didn't realize how much they would have to do in-house cooking out of the house. And he was like, well, why don't you just set up like a more professional? She was like, it would be my third business. And he said, I'd be happy to fund that for you. And she was like, what? And he was like, yeah, I'd be happy to fund that for you. And she was like, I'd have to talk to Rome about it. And so he tells her, like, if you talk to Rome about it, we all know what he would say. And she said, Rome just feels like you throw money at like if the situation, like your love is just to throw money at it, to not feel guilty or whatever. And he was like, why didn't you tell me that? And she said, because I didn't want you not coming around any, like she wanted the little bit he did come around. She knew that would stop him from coming. So she was like, that's why I didn't tell you. And so then we see, later on when Rome and Regina's dad talks and, he sees how hard he's being untied. He says, listen, give him something to come back home to, just as advice from a man who's trying to make up for lost time with his daughter now in my age. While you have him at this age and everything, make him want to come home. Lay off of him and make him like know that whatever you decide to do, I'm going to support you. So then we see Eddie and Sophie talk, and she just tells him that she's not going to go to college. And he's like, what? He was like, you have to go to college. Like, what if all of this goes away or whatever? You need something to fall back on. And she says, you didn't go to college. And he's like, and I drive a share ride, look at me now. And she was like, it sounded like you don't think we're good enough. And he was like, y'all not good enough. Y'all need to practice more. And so she kicks him out because she said, we need to do all that practicing more that you talked about. So when he goes back to Anna, he tells her that Sophie doesn't want to go to college and everything. And she was like, oh, she might have got that idea from me because I told her I went to MMI and then I now look, I run a retail shop or whatever. And she said, maybe she looked and was like, I don't want that to be my life. So I'm going to go for it. And she said, plus I let a man decide I wasn't good enough, pretty much tell me I wasn't good enough and I didn't go for it. And he said, oh my gosh, that's what I told her. So then, okay, so then we see, we go back to Gary and Maggie, and he tells her about the whole thing with Danny, and she's like, you have to tell Danny. He was like, I know, but it's just so hard. I don't want to hurt him by telling him this. And then someone knocks at the door, and they go to the door, and they think it's, well, he's actually on the phone with Maggie while he's saying this. So somebody goes to the door while he's on the phone when Maggie Gary is, and it's Cam. And he was like, Cam, and Maggie was like, Cam's there. And so then that's how that ended. But it comes back, and he just like, I need you to help me win Maggie back. Because he thinks Eddie can help because he doesn't know that Maggie left him for Eddie. Well, I don't want to call this man Eddie. I mean Gary. She doesn't know that Maggie left Kim for Gary. So he's going to Gary for help. Now they're sitting there talking and stuff, and then he looks over and he says, please tell me that you bought those chocolates from a different, like a store around the corner. But no, those chocolates are the chocolates that you gave Maggie. So no, he did not buy those around the corner. So then that lets Cam know what's going on. So when Maggie gets there, she explains everything to Cam and just tells him, she didn't want to hurt him and everything. But he said, you told me Gary, I had nothing to worry about with Gary. Listen, people going to stop believing that, because when you have to ask somebody, is something going on with y'all? And they're like, no, you have nothing to worry about. You got something to worry about. But anyways, she said, excuse me, Alcides. He said, you told me I had nothing to worry about. But she did. He did. He had something to worry about. And Gary, hearing this, decides, I'm going to go ahead and tell Danny. So he calls Danny up and everything. So just to wrap them up, kind of. So when Cam does eventually leave, and Danny is heartbroken, so Maggie and Gary talk, and that, they just catch up, and she says, Cam just told me, I love you and I just want you to be happy. And so Gary was like, are you sure you made the right choice picking me over Cam, because he's perfect? And she said, Cam is perfect, but I'm not perfect and you're not perfect. And I don't know, they just go together. They just mix. And so it's just, she chose Gary, and that's just what it is. Even though Cam is a great guy, she's not the woman for him. So then we see that Regina tells her dad she will take the offer from him about starting the business, but only if he helps her with it and everything. So I guess Mario is going to be on this show for a little minute, only if he helps her with it. And he's like, yes. He has some time before he starts his new job, so yes, he'll go ahead and help her with that. So that was a nice little storyline. And so then we see that Eddie goes back and he talks to Sophie, and he just apologizes. He said, I was projecting, my own, what happened to me onto you, and I'm sorry about that. And I want you to have a great time and everything. And she thanks him, and he tells her, here's the guitar I went out on tour with. And she says, nope, I'm not going to take it, because you still have music left in you. And I want you to come back, and we'll make music and everything like that. And he's like, oh, he was like, I'm in a wheelchair. And she was like, like, I don't care. And Anna told him the same thing. Like, the lead singer with the Foo Fighters was in a wheelchair for half of a tour. You can do it as well. So it makes Eddie want to go back into music again, because he actually comes to the house, and he tells Eddie tells Maggie and Gary that Sophie's going on tour and she leaves tonight. So then we see, who else? Catherine just talks to Theo, and Theo is like, she talks to him. Okay, so Catherine talks to Theo because Greta tells Catherine she doesn't think Theo is actually sick. Theo is just so worried about her because of the way he reacted with the vacuum fail, and he thought that something had happened to Catherine upstairs. And so she tells him, you just need to talk to him and reassure him. And she reminds Catherine about a story that happened to Catherine once, where she fell and I think she sprained her wrist or something, but she didn't want to make a big fuss because it was her sister's recital that night. But Catherine's mother, realized after her wrist was like twice the size of her normal. And that was just Catherine not making a fuss, just pushing along. And she's like, but I don't think that was good. And she said, well, Theo is doing that now. Greta does. So, just talk to him. So Catherine goes and she talks to Theo, and she tells them that she loves him and that she's going to be okay, and that she's glad he wants to be a doctor because he wants to work in the ER, and everything. But, she doesn't want it to be because he's worried about her and everything, and she's good. And he asked her about Greta, and she said, that's my friend. And he said, but y'all are more than friends. And she was like, yes, we're more than friends. How do you feel about that? And he says, I'm glad that you have somebody looking out for you. Like, kids are smarter than y'all are thinking, than we are thinking. And so, he's just happy that she's happy and everything. Um, so then we see who else who else goes. So then we see Tyrell talks to Rome, and he tells them that he did ask a question that Rome would have been proud of, and but that's not what got him in the college or anything like that. It was his essay. So Rome, he apologized to Tyrell about how he was acting and whatever. And then Rome takes the essay, and then we see that Rome actually starts like he's in the bedroom and he's sitting down, and Regina's like, what's going on? And he's like, Tyrell's essay, and he's talking about, so he starts to read the essay, and it's very sweet. It's just talking about how the word father means so much. It's so different to him now. He used to think it was like having your birth biological dad and everything, but Rome taught him differently. It's just having someone who loves you unconditionally, wants the best for you, shows you, right from wrong, shows you strength and weakness, and all of that kind of stuff. And as he's reading this, we see Cam, and I kind of felt bad for Cam, but we see Cam taking a picture with a little boy. He's still that happy, easy-go-lucky Cam. And I hope, like, I wish they would show, like, that he got with someone and that he is happy. And then we see, so we see that on Cam, and we see Catherine getting Theo into the bed and everything, and Eddie playing on the guitar. And then we see Maggie actually goes to speak to Sophie, and she tells Sophie, I heard you were leaving. I didn't want you to leave without saying goodbye. And, and we were talking, and Sophie is just like, I can't believe you would be with him after what he did. He told me that he can't be trusted. I don't feel safe around him. I'm like, girl, I'm sick of this character. Honestly, oh my gosh. Like, y'all like, she was already a brat, but y'all took it to another level. Like, she couldn't have any understanding. Y'all saying she couldn't have any understanding. Cause she's been a brat she's literally been a brat this whole time. The only time she was kind of nice was before she found out, about Delilah and Eddie. But after that, y'all put her on brat mode and kept going. She just kept going up levels and everything. So anyway, Sophie was like, one day you're going to find someone, because Gary was there for me when I didn't want to live, when I wanted to give completely up. And one day I hope you find that, and then you'll understand. And she's like, well, my mom was right about one thing. I'm getting out of here. Because the whole episode, Sophie was just like, all of the adults in my life want to do what they want. And my mom goes and is living this second life in France, just being footloose and carefree and all that. And here I am, having to, y'all want set expectations on me. Now, I do agree with her there. But don't put that on Eddie and all them. Put that on your mama. But so she's like, my mom is right about one thing. Get the heck up out of this town or whatever. I'm like, oh, good riddance, girl. Good riddance. Don't you come back. And so then we see Maggie and Eddie together. Why do I keep calling Gary Eddie? We see Gary and Maggie together, and they're in bed sleeping, and there's a knock on the door, and it's persistent. And I'm like, is that Sophie? She done came to the light. But it's not. It's Danny, and he says, I'm here to get Milo back. And so they pretty much just traded Sophie for Danny. And it's so funny. I was reading, like, I think it was Facebook or Instagram, where they were like, please take Sophie away and bring back Danny. And that's exactly what they did. And I'm here for that, because I like Danny. And it's not, I'm sorry, I like shows where kids are not bratty. Like, I don't know why they always put that in shows, because no, like, why would you? No. But anyways, that was a million little things, guys. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you next week for another episode.